Start recording. All right, we're all being watched here. So yeah, thanks for joining us for our July meeting of the Ogden North Lawndale Invest Southwest Community Roundtable. Got a few items on the agenda here today. We've got some folks joining us from the consultant team that is assisting with the Altenheim line planning study, which we're going to talk about in the last item. You all can wait for introductions. Then I don't know if there's anybody else who's new to the meetings. Please feel free to introduce yourselves right now. Any new additions? Well, let's see. Yeah, keep rolling here then. So first off, I don't have a lot to share about the Ogden Avenue and Roosevelt Costner RFPs. Just starting with the Ogden project, we've had two evaluation committee meetings, want to give a shout out to our members from the community that were a part of that. We've got some good conversations around the projects, and we're targeting a mid-August announcement. So if you were familiar with the announcements that were made around the first round of the Invest Southwest RFPs, you'll know that there was a event that the mayor attended, and as well as Commissioner Cox from DPD. They had folks who were part of the selected projects come up and say a few words, and kind of a celebration of the communities that were part of that round. So we're planning a similar event this time around, and just with the logistics of that, as well as the timelines for selecting all of the projects and all of the communities. It's turned out to be a little bit later than what we anticipated, but still, targeting a date for mid-August. And that's about all I can say on that right now, except I guess additionally, you can plan for our August meeting at the roundtable to do a debrief on the process and how the preferred project was selected, and we can go into dig a little bit into process and the community survey results and how we came to our decision, basically. So everyone who's part of this, and community stakeholders, everyone who's part of this forum can get a chance to ask questions, and then also just get a little bit of insight into the process, which we've already discussed already. So I don't think that there's going to be any surprises, but I think we just want to have a chance to follow up with this group and address any questions or issues that may arise. So you can plan on that for August. For Roosevelt Costner, the other RFP off of the Invest Southwest corridor, so this we're targeting a September announcement. Conversations with the development teams are still ongoing. As I've mentioned before, we got a short list of projects, so it's been reduced down to 4 that are still in the running. DPD is working with the developers to gather more information and to help with the further evaluation of these. So I don't have a hard date on this one either, but that will be in September. And again, we can discuss that in greater detail, as a follow-up in the September roundtable meeting. So I think that will be a possibility as well. So I'm going to move on here, unless does anyone have any questions about either of those RFP projects? Okay, well, I'm going to hand it over to Mary. And Mary, just give me a cue for when you would like to have me change the slides. And so Mary's going to walk through the recent NOF awards.
Hi, everyone. Mary Kuhn from the Department of Planning. And we also have one of our advisory committee members, Brenda, on the call, I see. Good to see you. So we are excited to announce our latest round. We have 24 finalists. Hi, Brenda.
Hey.
She's very familiar with these. Helped us with the selection process, along with a lot of other folks. So I'll talk about the latest finalists, and then we have a new round coming up starting in August, which is right around the corner. So we'll talk about that as well. Next slide, please, Brian. Those are some of the logos from our recent grantees. Fine, we call them finalists. So we have about 11.5 million in investment in this latest round, 4.3 from NOF and the rest from private funds. On the right, you'll see the process that we go through for selection. So we have a lot of stakeholders involved, including some of the folks from our planning department, our advisory committee, mayor's office, aldermen. We have a lot of layers for our process. And we started out with over 700 folks applying, and of course we have limited funds, so have to kind of narrow it down, and we ended with the 24. Next slide, please. So we are proud to say that 79% of our finalists are BIPOC businesses. Good representation from our qualified investment area. That's the QIA. That's the area that is eligible for NOF. And that's based on census data. It's where the highest need, where the poverty rates, unemployment rate, other factors like that. That's how we got our QIA, and we had 15 folks out of the 24 that live in that qualified investment area, which is most of the south and west sides. And then 14 of them are from our Invest Southwest corridors, and 75% of them intend to hire locally within that QIA. So that's what we like to see. And then over on the right, food is usually our biggest area for businesses. So that was the same for this round. We just had one arts and culture. We're always looking for those arts and culture projects. So please refer those over if you know anybody working on a good project. Nonprofits are eligible if they are doing a retail activity, like if they have a store or a coffee shop, that's part of their project. Next slide, please, Brian. So one area that we are hoping to get, we have good participation, but we want to increase it, is from our Latinx community. We do have an application in Spanish, and we got our first applications in Spanish this time. And we have reviewers that speak and read and write in Spanish, so they were able to help us with that. We'd like to see more in that area, but 21% of our finalists do identify as Hispanic. I mean, we did see an uptick in the applications as well when we asked folks about their, to identify themselves. Next slide, please. So this shows where the projects are from. And Brian, maybe you can help me out with this particular roundtable, which ones would be of it, which areas are most of interest to folks?
Well, North Lawndale, obviously.
Okay, just North Lawndale. Are there any other areas that kind of lead in there?
Maybe South Lawndale is as well, just being the adjacent
South
community.
Lawndale. Oh no, South Lawndale is up there. So there were 11 applications from South Lawndale, only 4 from North Lawndale. So that will be, hopefully we'll get a little bit more. Our applications were down overall this time. I think there's a few reasons for that. Previously we were doing 1 round per year. We're now doing 2 rounds per year. So folks have more opportunities to apply. So that could explain why the applications were down a little bit. And then, I think COVID just changed businesses a lot. I mean, people are, not as, kind of holding back on investing, and also contracting, and the price of supplies has been kind of crazy. So we think those are some of the reasons the applications have been down. But good news is, if somebody wants to apply right now, if this round looks like last round, it might be a little bit less competitive than what we were seeing, before COVID. Next slide, please. So this is just showing the different corridors. Invest Southwest. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is by region, and these are the finalists. So we have a small group. If anybody wants to shout out if they're involved with any of these projects, feel free. You can go to the next slide. And the map shows all of the NOF projects. The new ones are the red with the white on the outside. Next slide, please. This is far south. And then the map shows where those were all kind of in the northern part here on the 79th and 87, the new ones. Far south has always been a hard, we always want to get more applications from far south. So if you know anybody down there, encourage them to apply. Southeast, this is always the busiest area. We get the most applications from this area. You can flip to the map, Brian. So you can see those are kind of distributed throughout the new ones, the active ones. Okay. And then this is the one I think folks are going to be interested in. So anybody involved with any of these projects? Well, you've got Lawndale Christian in there. So let's see. Yeah. So it looks like one in North Lawndale and a couple in South Lawndale. But nothing on the Ogden Avenue corridor, which is interesting. Hopefully next time we'll have one on that corridor.
Hey, Mary, can you just reference what the North Lawndale project is? Matt, I can go
Yeah, do
back
you want
to
to
that.
flip, if you want to just
Yes,
flip back up?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry, can you go back to the map again? I have to see what the street is, what street it's on. What street is that on? Anybody?
Also,
Yeah.
Richard,
Yeah, this is
I-
Richard's project. Yeah.
16th Street?
The 16th
Okay.
Street, so it is it's a commercial space in the Martin Luther King Apartments where we're going to be bringing Turkey Chop restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Right.
That space. So we were awarded the NOF grant. It's one we actually were awarded in 2017, and it's taken until now to move forward. Pricing obviously went up by a pretty big margin.
Yep.
Some code changes that cost us our pricing to go up as well. So hopefully this time around we'll get it done.
Yes, you can. Yes, you will.
Now's the time, Richard.
Any other questions about that map or that list? Congratulations to Richard. Okay, I guess if there's no questions, we can go to the next slide. So this is looking forward to the next application round. I've got the dates on the next slide. So this is something that we call spec. This is just some, tips for applications. I think if folks really kind of do all these things, they're going to have a pretty competitive application. So site control, just showing that they've secured that. Ideally, it's a lease or a deed, but we will take a signed letter of intent. The construction plan, the big important thing here is bids, or a bid, having a bid to back up that construction plan. And we give a template on the application. So all folks have to do is just kind of fill that out and just try to be realistic with the dates. If you're saying it's going to get, your construction project's going to get done next month, that's probably not going to happen. As Richard can probably tell you, having experience with it. And then the next one is funding. So 25% is our minimum. We have those two bonuses, but the minimum, depending on which bonuses you get for hiring, or if you're a local resident, if you get those bonuses. So we just need to see that you have a loan in place, you're talking to the bank. If you have the money in the bank, great, show us that. But that you're thinking through the financial piece of the project. And then the last one is a budget. And again, bids are really important here. So if you have a bid, and then we just want to see like the line items, of course it might change a little bit, but just having those realistic numbers going into the project really, really helps. So any questions about any of these? No, easy crowd today. All right, next slide, Brian. This is Maya Camille. She's from Justice of the Pies. You may have seen her at a farmer's market around the city. She's one of our finalists. And these are the dates. So it's opening on the 16th and will be open until the 24th. And it's an online application. So everything will, be on our website. Next slide, please. Okay, so a couple of next steps. If you'd like to host an information session, let us know. We have a lot of community partners that have done this in the past, and it's been great. And we like to get the word out about that. We'll have information sessions. We're working on dates for those, so we'll post those on our website, and we'll send out emails to our mailing list. You can sign up for our mailing list on the contact page on our website. We have recordings that we did in our last session, so those are like they're pretty recent, less than a year old. Those are on our website. We are hiring. The position is called Coordinator of Economic Development, and it's on the city's website. It does say Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, so you'll be able to find it I think it's on the first page of the jobs. So please refer any folks that you know that might be interested for that. And then that's our email address if you have any questions. So any questions for me about NOF? Is anybody working with new projects for next time?
Hi, Mary. This is Rodney. I have a question.
Hi, Rodney.
One of the things we've heard from past applicants, particularly those who have not been awarded the NOF, is that they don't get much feedback as it relates to why they weren't selected. And that I've known some that applied once or twice, and that can be kind of discouraging. And I know also that you cannot tell me who applied. So I'm just wondering, we need to work on a way in which we can find out, one, who's going to apply. So help perhaps organizations like New Covenant can work with folks before they apply to enhance their chances of being selected. So that's something we need to work on, how we can address that.
Yeah. Feel free to follow up with me after the presentation. Okay. We typically get like close to 400 applications. So just providing that feedback is kind of difficult. We have 2 people on our staff. But we like to work with the community partners and make sure that you're trained. I mean, like, if you told me a little bit more about the application and gave me a 2-minute summary, I could probably tell you where some of the areas that they would need to work on. Okay. So I can always work with you as a partner. So you're kind of trained. And I don't want to volunteer Brenda for something that she doesn't want to do, but she's pretty knowledgeable with the process. And I'm sure Brian could help too. Okay. So, gotcha. I mean, the first questions I ask are those that spec, like the site control, the finances, bids and the budget.
Yeah.
So if they're really strong in all 4 of those areas, then there's maybe we would look at some other things, but those are the first 4 things.
Yeah, and we tell them too that it is competitive. It's
very competitive.
Just this time they weren't at the top. To your point, next time around, and maybe less competition. Perhaps they can get in next time.
They should keep trying. I mean, we had a finalist this time who I think has applied like many times, and he was finally selected this time. So keep trying.
Every no brings you closer. But Rodney, we could host a joint meeting together if you'd like.
Sounds good.
With folks that are interested, and Mary can attest that we, as reviewers, we are often asking, how do we make sure that folks get this feedback? I mean, we're concerned, because we don't want people to get discouraged. And I will have to say that I've been really impressed that Mary has tried to make the application a lot simpler. So from when it was, when I applied compared to what it is now, it's just a lot simpler. And that's the point. We don't want this to be, jump hurdles. We want to be able to see your plan and understand what your vision is and how do we provide you support for it. So I think that there's a wonderful receptivity to feedback, but I'm happy to sit down and maybe we can have you come out, Mary, and Rodney and I can host you and host a meeting for those folks who are interested.
Sounds good.
And Rodney, like Brenda said, we're always interested if if you have feedback like on the application, like one of the changes that we made last time, and actually Sophia, this was her idea. So for the budget and the construction timeline, we noticed that a lot of people just had trouble, like didn't know what to write or how to fill it out. So she created a template. So it's got all the phases and the milestones in there,
Okay.
which I think it makes it a lot easier for people, and we got a better response. So, you know, I would say like, don't skip it. We already gave you the milestones. Just type
Yeah.
some, come up with your best, even if you're not sure, come up with your best guess and type some dates in there.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
same thing with the budget. We gave all the major categories like, you know, HVAC, roof, you know, facade, whatever. It's all in there. You just have to fill in the numbers. So
Yeah.
we're always trying to make things easier and make it more accessible to people. So you don't need to be like this professional developer to apply for
Sure.
NOF. It's the program's for mom and pops.
Right.
So
Gotcha. So next question. So are you going to have any flyers or anything with the dates and stuff like that, so we can start advertising it, and to Brenda's point, we can then get together with a bunch of folks to host a session for us. So any material you have on that, just feel free to send it to me.
yeah, I'm not, you know, during COVID, we used to do flyers and then that kind of changed during COVID. I'm not sure if we will. We kind of rely on our website to,
Okay.
you know, be the place that we post everything. And then if you're on our email list, we send out a lot of updates through that too.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Do you think the flyers, like, would that really help with your folks that you work with, like having like paper flyers or just having a
Well,
PDF?
actually, we would do it electronically.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, just to, that's a great idea, Rodney. I could share it on my LinkedIn page and share it with some of the other networks if it's electronically sent as well, with the timeline on there in terms of
Yes.
August to September. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, there'll be an email that will go out to hopefully you all are on our mailing list, but there is an email that will go out that'll have all the dates and the announcement.
Okay.
And you should be able to just kind of easily forward that to folks. Did we lose you, Brian?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mary. And you know, I'm glad to hear folks are part of this group. Wanted to try to plan ahead and, you know, get the word out and provide assistance, you know, because we've got a limited staff at DPD for NOF, considering the amount of interest and, you know, the amount of real estate they got to cover across the city. So yeah, all of our community partners kind of picking up the ball too, and you know, running with it locally is really great to hear. And the yeah, application window is coming up pretty quick here.
Yep.
All right. Anything else for Mary before we move on to our next item? Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on our agenda here is something that we've talked about in you know, briefly in this forum before. So previously, you know, was referring to this as like the Lawndale line. You know, we've since tried to just tweak the name on it to the Altenheim line, because this is obviously an amenity that will appeal to communities, you know, across the west side, across the city. So we're just trying to make it a little bit more broad, but still the same project. So DPD and CDOT are working in cooperation with Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, planning and urban design firm. Has a local office here, is well known in Chicago, on a framework study for the elevated rail line section that goes, you know, from about California out to, I think the western terminus of it would be the Chicago Belt Railway. So, you know, it's about a couple of miles, runs predominantly through North Lawndale, but also near to East and West Garfield Park. It goes through, you know, the Holman Square campus and through the Roosevelt Costner RFP site. So we've recently kicked off a study. We're looking at a upcoming community meeting in early August. So we've got folks from the consultant team who are here. And so I think now would probably be a good time for all of you to introduce yourselves, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Hey, everybody. I think some of you know me. My name is David Scully. I'm Associate Director in Urban Design and Planning Studio at SOM. And then I think with me is my colleague Ola. Ola, why don't you go ahead and say a quick hi?
Hey everybody, my name is Ola Odukoya. I'm a junior urban designer at SOM.
Thanks, guys.
And then we have, I think Jesse's on as well, who's also supporting the team and sort of making sure we're connected to the community.
We all know Jesse anyway.
Yeah,
good
I'm like
afternoon.
everybody knows Jesse.
Jesse Green, North Lawndale Community Coordinating Council, providing community engagement for the team.
And I also apologize too. I left Department of Housing off of this slide as well. But as we've talked about before for this project, anti-displacement is a key element of it. So Aaron Johnson at DOH is also part of the conversation. But Aaron and guys at CDOT, if you could just hop in, say hello, introduce yourselves real quick, that'd be great.
Hi, my name is Aaron Johnson, Project Manager of the Department of Housing and the Office of Community Engagement, Racial Equity, and Strategic Initiatives. Happy to meet you all and be part of the process.
Hi, yeah, this is Joe Alonzo with CDOT, working in project development within CDOT, and we work on a myriad of different transportation modes and issues, rail being among them, which is why we're collaborating with this team effort on the Altenheim.
Great, thanks. Okay, I thought maybe we had someone else from CDOT on, but looks like that's it. So yeah, this is a really happy. This is a real collaborative effort that brings together, the planning, transportation, and housing staff from the city, as well as a amazingly talented team from SOM that does great work. So David has some slides that he wants to show, some background on the project and where we're at so far. So I'll hand it over to you, David, and you should be able to share your slides. And then we'll have some time for discussion.
Awesome. All right, so I'll be able to see my screen. Thanks for having me here, everybody. We're excited to kind of get to work on this project and talk to you guys a little bit about the Altenheim line. We'll talk a little bit about the name later, but it'll be a larger sort of naming exercise with community, because I think we want it to feel like an authentic place that sort of really represents the folks here. But just a quick sort of outline of the deck, just a little bit on the team itself, the project goals, a little bit on the line, some project examples as well, and then discussions, just to talk through a little bit of what we've shown and get some thoughts from you guys on, sort of what we can, how we can continue to evolve the project. But the team itself is not just SOM, it's a larger sort of group that the city and DPD, CDOT, and Department of Housing will put together. We're leading the project, of course, sort of as lead urban designers, looking at design guidelines and engagement. We're working with Walter Hood, Hood Design Studio, which is out of Oakland, but they're a really amazing landscape architecture firm, and they've done work here in Chicago with us, and excited to be back. Layton Design, who's a local, MBE, urban design, planning and architecture firm. SB Friedman on market analysis. We're Realty Group, who's going to focus specifically on the retail market. Engage Civil on, kind of just helping coordinate or find opportunities for civil engineering, and just, sort of to help make sure that at a high level we understand how the line is working and what some of the opportunities are to connect to it. HNTB similarly in a more of an advisory role to help us, understand the line itself, but transportation at large. And then of course, NLCCC, you already know a lot about. The project timeline right now, it's sort of broken into these 3 chunks, going really from, July. I think we started kind of early June, May, June, just kind of getting set up. And now we're sort of in, sort of July, August through this sort of initial project intro and visioning workshop that we'll be, sort of running that Brian mentioned, over the next, in early August. The next sort of tranche would be to, really understand from that session some of those key visioning ideas. What are some of the things we heard from community to sort of synthesize that, as well as our existing conditions evaluation, and start to create some design options. So that sort of August, September, we'll be working through design options, iterating, and then doing a larger community meeting to show those options and get some additional feedback. And then the last, sort of October, November will be sort of the refinement of those options, and then focusing on, sort of what the implementation strategy and what the framework, sort of recommendations will be. On the overall project, though, I mean, it's very multifaceted, which is really interesting and amazing about this effort. And sort of it's really focused on the line, but there's also really this opportunity to start to play and build off of the momentum that's happening in, sort of these clusters. And we started to show a couple here, this idea of a 15-minute neighborhood that could really move through, kind of from west to east or east to west, building on the anchors that are there. And then exploring kind of those larger connections along the existing Emerald Necklace, Greenway, and Park system, and how this really fits into that structure. As Brian mentioned, sort of the line itself, the portion that we're looking at is about 2 miles long. It's pretty substantial, and we'll show you some images of it in a second. But it's something, I mean, I think you probably wouldn't, sort of notice that much. You probably drive through it or around it a lot, but we spent a little bit of time actually getting on it and trying to understand what are the opportunities and constraints, and we're continuing to do that for that community session. And we look forward to, I think, hearing a little bit the feedback. But you see in this image, you're seeing the line itself, but then also a larger study area. And one of the reasons for that is that it's not just a open space rails to trails or rails and trails project. It is also an economic development, sort of project. So finding ways to understand the ripple effect ramifications of what a project like this could do in the neighborhood. And on the name, I mentioned a little bit earlier, finding a name, I think, is a key part of this exercise. That'll, probably continue past the framework plan, but there is a real need, I think, to really focus and find ways to really brand this in a way that's really authentic and genuine to the community. So we chose to really step back and use the name Altenheim, which is, I know you're probably like, who is Altenheim? We don't know. It is the name of the line that CSX owns. So we decided to just kind of go with that, from there for now, while we, sort of maybe ask some of those questions as part of our engagement to community. And then we'll just kind of continue, I think, to iterate off of that to build and find a way to really brand the project, sort of as it may move forward. But a key real goal of this project is equitable economic development. That it's not just about, sort of converting and making this open space asset, but how does that asset sort of fit within a wider framework of wellness and recreation for the community? How does it really build a sense of community ownership and control? What is the highest and best use for the parcels that are around it? So not only the current Invest Southwest site at Roosevelt and Coster, but other vacant or city-owned sites or underutilized sites that are nearby. And then how that can really be an opportunity to support indigenous economic growth. And then how that really can really create an ecosystem that it's open space, it's allowing for housing, it's allowing for sort of places to work, live, and play. Rails and trails is also a key part of this. One of the things that we sort of started to discuss early on was, sort of, do we, these rail lines, how active they are, sort of how this line could operate if it were, sort of converted. And there's, sort of potential that, sort of the rail may need to stay in some fashion. So we're exploring that, and we'll have a couple of slides a little bit about that later. But that's, I think, a key portion, and it shapes sort of how you might, sort of design or operate this sort of amenity. And then community housing being a key portion of this, and as mentioned earlier by Brian, anti-gentrification, and really focusing to create a strategy that allows for supporting existing residents that are there, but also finding opportunities for new folks to sort of come to the community and bring, sort of be part of the activity, vibrance, and vitality of the neighborhood is key. And one of the key tasks that we were given is this idea of 20 catalytic sites. So, there's a lot of, sort of land or opportunities for development around the site, but I think we're working to develop a framework, and I think that's going to be part of our engagement is having conversation around what are the priorities, or what are some of the ways that we can create a priority to understand what, and select those 20 sites to be catalytic. What is catalytic? Sort of, really based on community. And I think one of the key things about this project and a lot of the work that we do is always like, you're never starting from scratch. And we really were, sort of excited to, pick up the North Lawndale Quality of Life Plan, which I think is the most recent sort of comprehensive neighborhood plan done, and really dive into that. And we see this project as sort of a next step out of that work, that it is, sort of bringing that next level of fidelity to, sort of a piece of the project that, or a piece of the area that, sort of, needs, could use some focus and some further refinement. But we really see there's an opportunity to keep to these 8 principles that were really set out by the Quality of Life Plan, and moving and finding ways that the project can help to move each of these forward in some way or another. So the line itself, we sort of started to create some initial mapping and drawing just to understand ourselves, like what is the opportunity, how does this sort of connect and in its context and to the assets around it, transportation, public space, et cetera. But it's also about, sort of the people that are there, kind of looking at it from the 30,000 square foot, but also getting to the ground and understanding that, that this is a project about amplifying the possibility and the energy and the activity of the folks who are already there doing amazing work. And, so we went out there, looked at it. We've been out there several times just to, try and understand this, 2-mile stretch. And it's really amazing to, kind of just see visually how it, the width of it, how it connects, so both east and west through the community. That, sort of while right now it's, sort of this elevated piece, there's a real opportunity to reactivate it and find some ways to, sort of bring it to life as a space. And that it has some really interesting characteristics and key intersections with existing infrastructure, the boulevards, the sort of existing parks, transit that can be really leveraged in the future. And as I mentioned earlier, this sort of rails with trails is something that, so we're still, kind of wrapping our heads around, like what are the regulations, or what are some of the things that may have to happen if that is the scenario that plays out. But there are, sort of rules and metrics that we can start to build off of. This is work by the Rails to Trails Conservancy that has sort of looked at those scenarios where they've had to keep that active rail line, and what are the needs, what are the things that you have to do to keep it safe and active and vibrant and lively. And that there are, kind of real examples in urban settings that have to do this, and that there's some really, ways we could potentially take advantage of that, and make it part of the identity of the space. And all of that really leads to a couple of conversations and thoughts about access. And just looking at the line that, there's some places where you can get up right now around the school and the farm and the original Sears Tower. There's some other locations where you're not as constrained physically to access it. You could, kind of design around it. But there are some spaces where it is very, it starts to narrow down at certain crossings or at certain places, or it's constrained on both sides by private property. And those are places where we're going to have to think creatively about how to, sort of access or potentially access this line itself. And then we've also started to do some comparisons of the line with the 606, which is sort of right to the north of this. You can see the 606 is a little bit longer, but similarly has these sort of consistent access points that we can, ourselves design that sort of rigor and that sort of mix of access points and open space that it connects to. But one thing that's a little bit different from the 606 is that we have a fair amount more space. Sort of at most conditions, it's sort of in this 80 to 110 feet, whereas the 606 is roughly 40 feet for the bulk of the trail. So we have some opportunities to really be a little bit more flexible, more opportunities for programming, for connecting with adjacent sites that are also vacant. And then we're trying to understand from the rail, like if this rail line has to stay, what is that minimum dimension that we may need to keep as, sort of the rail. So we're still working through that. But then there's a lot of opportunities to learn from other projects in other cities. The 606 is showed earlier, just some photos of that. If you're not familiar, please go check it out. The El Paseo Trail, which is happening to the south, it's a longer at grade trail, but really has a lot of different activity that's really, trying to bring that community together around this linear open space. And there is a proactive effort that, is happening to really understand and address gentrification before it happens. I think a lot of people know the 606 has had, sort of those issues, and, sort of there's a real desire and focus to be proactive around that in all of these communities that have these amenities. And then we start to look at other cities and some of these linear amenities like the DeQuinder Cut in Detroit, which is, sort of a great, amazing greenway, again, rail converted into open space greenway, linear park that has, sort of active fitness, it has some local retail and food along it. And then it connects people to their Detroit riverfront, which is an amazing amenity. The Atlanta Beltline, which actually circles the entire city of Atlanta and is being constructed in phases. And there's a lot of different conditions that it's created, both sort of economic activity as well as other, sort of recreational and community activity that's, connected with the line itself. And also note that's their Sears building, Ponce City Market, which has been converted into office, retail, and community market for that area. The River Line in Buffalo is a project that Hood Design and Landscape is working on currently as a way to, and they're thinking about it as this sort of place of refuge in the city, bringing nature back. And I think one of the things that we heard from folks is the lack of tree canopy, air quality, need for air quality and the like, and the role that this line could play in that sort of activity is key. And then another project that Hood Design is working on in Milwaukee, the Beer Line, which actually goes through an industrial area. And their focus is really how to connect the community surrounding through that industrial area to this amenity as well, and focus on arts and culture program that could activate that area. So that's for the most part all I wanted to share today, just to give y'all a sense of the project itself, where we're heading. You'll see more at the sort of community meeting as we get closer to August. But I wanted to end on a couple of questions that we're asking ourselves, and I think we're curious about hearing from the larger community about as well. Of what types of programs are missing from the area that the line could support, what types of development would you like to see sparked by the line? And what does success look like? And I'll end there. I'd love to hear, sort of comments, thoughts, questions, kind of whatever's on your mind, but, wanted to just end with some provoking thoughts. And, would love to hear a little bit more from you guys if there's any questions or comments.
Sure. This is Richard Townsend. I have a question. When I read the piece that said the Department of Housing is beginning to think about housing plans, I'm very concerned about that because we have been working for a couple years on trying to build this reclaiming campaign with 1,000 vacant lots in North Lawndale. And to date, they haven't given us, we're supposed to go to council. Now we're not going to September, which means we won't get out until October. So now we're going into next year. And as we drive around and look at the lots, some of the lots that they've given us are not even buildable. I mean, they're too small. And so when we started coming up with a new housing plan, and we haven't even dealt with the housing plan that we currently have, that we've been working on for a few years, that kind of concerns me. We haven't built a single house yet. I mean, we build our own homes on land that we own, but I'm concerned about thinking about something new when we haven't even delivered on the old yet. And so some of those lots that you all could be looking at are lots that we could very well be using to build 1,000 homes, because as we drove around and looked at the first phase, there are lots of land that that wasn't even included in the first phase. There was a whole block on 19th and Sawyer that could have been redone had we had the whole block as opposed to 4 or 5 houses. So I think, this is my take on it, I think before we start thinking about new stuff, we should be working on the existing stuff.
Hey, well, Aaron, I just want to jump in really quickly and say, because my former colleague Ethan and I worked on the aspect of selecting land in North Lawndale that's controlled by the city for this project, Richard. So I just wanted to say that we were looking at a first phase of what you're trying to do, and identified, I think, about 125 lots that I know that we did in coordination with Alderman Scott, and then also had coordination meetings with, I was actually not part of it, but I know that we did reach out to your organization and United Power for Action about how we should begin this process. And so, the city is committing city-owned land and as well as resources to do environmental remediation, or at least the site assessments on it. So, we are trying to be a good partner in that with, you and UPA, and definitely want to move that along. But, I think that at the same time, we do need to start looking at other efforts that might, drive land speculation or even just spur new development. And so, I think that we can take a look at the near term that's right in front of us, and as well as the long term as well. So, we can get out ahead of any issues, like the other parts of the city have experienced. So Aaron, please do jump in if you have any additional thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would add is that we currently don't have any plans, outside of the work that we're doing, already in the area. So any additional kind of supports that would, we think would be, you all think would be necessary to put into place as this development comes online, we would do that with conjunction with the community and with you all. And we work to include existing plans and work that's going on in the area into whatever additional supports that go along with this. And the example I'll give is Woodlawn, that had programs that existed before with community groups involved, and those were just like built into the overall strategy around the Obama Presidential Center. So, I mean, what we'll start off initially is just providing information on Department of Housing programs that homeowners and renters can take advantage of to, provide repairs, to help homeowners stay in their homes. Because that is, the Department of Housing, that is something that we really do want people to be able to stay or have choice that is, and have quality and safe homes. So that's the kind of programs that we'll provide to you all. And if it requires a larger kind of planning session about other kind of supports that may be necessary, then we would most definitely do that in conjunction with the community and with you all.
Just want to clarify one thing. Our first phase is not 109, it's 250. And our goal is 1,000. So I just want to reiterate that every time we have a meeting like this, we're not looking to do some small scattered site program. That's the problem in Chicago. And that's why neighborhoods don't get rebuilt, because we'll do a 50-unit project here and a 25 there. And then you get swallowed up in the devastation all around the neighborhood. We have 3,000 city-owned vacant lots in North Lawndale. And we just said we want the first 1,000. We want to make sure that whatever gets done, we are at the table. The first phase is 250. And we're not going to go lower than that number, because that's what it's going to take to get us going.
Brilliant. I think one thing that comes to my mind, Richard, is like one of the key things I think about this project is that this is really the first start. We still have a lot of work to do to even figure out if this project is feasible, and that's kind of a lot of this effort. But I think a key, sort of thing about how we work is we don't ever want to be, sort of paralleling efforts that are already happening. We don't want to be duplicative. We want to be additive to the work that you guys are already doing. And I know we had this conversation, sort of last week in our sort of weekly meeting, really that we see this as an opportunity to really add to the work that you guys are doing around 1,000 homes, because as you mentioned, there is a lot of, sort of vacancy and need. And we don't want to, we don't want to cannibalize or, sort of get in the way of the work that you guys are already doing, which is amazing. So I think there's an opportunity, though, to be strategic in how this could be, is there an opportunity for this to be the next 1,000, sort of after you do the first chunk, or are there other, sort of things that get catalyzed that maybe start to unlock some other opportunities in the community? And some of the sites that we're looking at also, they're not going to be housing. They may want to be more commercial. They may want to be more job generating uses. They may want to be more supportive. So how do those things really fit into the larger network of things that are going on? So, kind of that's, I think, how we're, trying to think about it as well. Like, definitely don't want to, sort of, be a barrier or be parallel to the work you guys are already doing, which I think is amazing.
I know we're running up against our time limit here, but if anybody else has any comments or thoughts on this, can definitely take a few minutes.
The only thing I would add to that, Brian, is that Richard, what David didn't mention earlier is that we have a subgroup of folks who are members of various committees. Like we have the Transportation Committee, we have someone from Arts and Culture, someone from we have several committee members who are part of what we're calling the user group session, helping to design this alongside with the planning committee. And then you yourself, Richard, that's why it was important for us to, someone has something going on in the background, getting a lot of feedback. They can mute themselves. Thank you. And that's why we're bringing you on as that housing consultant to help us kind of process that. And trust me, those members who are members like Castleberry, she's on the user group, they all brought up the 1,000 homes, making sure that this did not infringe on that, as well as the alderman and myself. So we're trying to be very cognizant of how we design this, very sensitive to that. You may have remembered there's an email that came out even last week, trying to getting engagement from various people like yourself and Brenda to begin to talk about programs early on and strategies early on to mitigate the bad word of gentrification and having you involved in that. But that's why we also engage you as the housing consultant to this. So we want to be mindful as we begin the process of this in the early stages, and not like they did at the 606, and they had a lot of issues regarding that.
That's the meeting we're trying to set up with you, Richard.
Yeah, just another thing too to add to the conversation, which thanks, Jesse. That's good, and I'm sorry for interrupting your comments as well. But you know, compared to the 606 in North Lawndale, like you mentioned, Richard, you know, the city has control over a vast amount of land resources. So you know, I think that you know puts not just the city, but also, you know, community stakeholders and leaders like yourself more in the driver's seat here. You know, we've already got a partnership that we're working on with you, and you know, it's a barrier to kind of like a firewall from, you know, the land speculation that went on around, you know, a resource like the 606. So, you know, administrations change. You know, I can't sit here and say what's going to be, you know, the city's priority 5 years from now, but you know, I'm just saying the you know, the lay of the land is different here. We've got existing partnerships with organizations like your own in North Lawndale, and you know, that sets a precedent for the future as well. So yeah, but you know, I think we all understand the sensitivity around this issue, and that's why we're trying to have these conversations earlier rather than later. 3 o'clock. We didn't mention too specifically that we nailed down a date for the first community meeting. It will be in person, you know, barring any sorts of, you know, announcements from the mayor's office around COVID restrictions. But we're looking at having a in-person meeting, you know, ideally in like a larger kind of auditorium type area where we can practice social distancing. But the date is August the 12th. The time will be 5:30 to 7:30. And, you know, we're kind of been talking with David and his team around having a more sort of interactive format, you know, where folks can come in and read up a little bit on the, you know, nature of the project, and then go and provide their, you know, feedback and maybe talk in like smaller groups. You know, it'd be like, you know, David, his colleagues, myself, you know, ideally, obviously, like, you know, Jesse will be a part of that, and other folks who can sort of be like, you know, around the room to engage with folks who have questions or want to give feedback. So we really want to make it, you know, interactive and a good feedback opportunity for North Lawndale residents, or, you know, whatever, anybody who shows up. So more to come on that. We'll get an invitation out. I'll make sure that I share it with everyone who's on the roundtable invite. I think, you know, hopefully we'll have a site nailed down like today or tomorrow. Been working with Alderman Scott on that. And, you know, Jesse or myself will be in touch. So looking forward to that, and hope you all can attend. So yeah, I don't want to hold anyone over. If there's any final like last announcements or anything like that, feel free to chime in here. Otherwise, we can wrap it up. So, okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.